Hi, welcome to another episode of NLP Upskill Your Life. This is week 11, believe it or not, or episode 11 of the podcast. So I really hope everybody's enjoying the podcast every fortnight we put out there. So he was very welcome along, myself, Mark, Finton, and Rich. How's it going, guys? All good?
Very good. Thanks, Mark, for asking. How's yourself?
Yeah, grand. So this week we're gonna talk around hypnosis. All right, Finton, yeah,
Yeah, thanks very much.
yeah, great stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd probably start off basically, like I did
That's right.
Orlando's,
Experiences with
yeah,
self.
I did Orlando's course before hypnotic fusion, which was really good. Like not only did it cover NLP, there was a lot of hypnosis as well involved. I think you guys done that as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, I've done that,
yeah,
mate. Yeah, it's very good. Very thorough course.
Yeah,
certainly.
great.
Yeah, highly recommended as well, especially for somebody looking to start off to get into NLP. And of course, part of NLP is hypnosis as well. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, they took the teachings of Milton Erickson and adapted that to the NLP model. So effectively, yeah, a third of NLP is hypnosis.
Yeah, like there's lots of different ways hypnosis can be used as well. Like to give us quit smoking, for to not weight loss but weight management is a big one as well that's used with hypnosis. And then generally like is to if you want to excel at something as well, it can be used in that as well.
Absolutely. I was listening to a chat by a guy called Glenn Catley, and he was Bristol's so far only world boxing champion. And he got invited to train with Steve Collins back in the day.
All right, yeah.
And they used to know, and they would always know when Steve Collins had a hypnosis session or he didn't. And when Steve Collins came in with a hypnosis session, he was just purely focused on that moment in the ring. And if he didn't have that hypnosis session, he'd be more chatty and a bit more, friendly towards his sparring partners. And so, yeah, they would get hammered, absolutely battered if they had the hypnosis session beforehand. They were like, oh, bloody hell, not this again.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, like hypnosis can be very beneficial to people. I myself used it to give up smoking a number of years ago. Although after I did the NLP course, I realized that actually the hypnotist used a combination of NLP and he did a bit of hypnosis as well. Not particularly deep hypnosis either, but it was very effective. And actually, one of the things that impressed me most was even at the time, though I'd never heard of timeline work, was the timeline work he did with me. And I just thought he was having a chat with me, you know. So so there you go. So what he did was he just got me to think about when I started smoking, why I was smoking, and if those reasons for smoking still existed at the time. And of course, there's a big difference between when you start smoking at 12 and when you're an adult, and those you don't need to be smoking for the same reasons and that, you know. So it was a very simple thing to do at the time. And the other thing, of course, was I was at the threshold. I went in believing that I was going to give up smoking and that I was going to walk out there 15 minutes later, 20 minutes later, whatever it was. Probably wasn't even that, probably 45 minutes or whatever it was later. And as a non smoker. And that's exactly what happened. So there was a lot of stuff there. And in fact, one of the biggest aspects of hypnosis is self hypnosis. That they say that all hypnosis is self hypnosis. And also that self hypnosis, of course, is very useful for you to do yourself when you have a chance, particularly if you're really good at meditation. Just put yourself into a meditative state, and give yourself whatever you want to say. Set your intention, What is it you'd like to get from this? Just yourself. What would you like to get from your day? You might do this first thing in the morning. And in fact, I do it most mornings. I certainly do it at least once a day. Set my intention. And to be honest with you, your unconscious mind then goes and looks for your internal resources that you have for those, but it also looks externally as well for what can support you in that. And I have to say, I found that extremely useful in my life.
You know, that's great, Fintan, because you know the way you said that you went and got the smoking to quit smoking, and when you were hypnotized, would you say you've used that hypnosis the way he's done that to kind of get yourself into the same state of self hypnosis?
I'd say so, yeah. Because I have actually listened to Paul McKenna as well.
Yeah.
I got a couple of books of his down through the years. One of which was the first one was How to Change Your Life in 7 Days. So I suppose he does the, so I probably followed his method mostly. I don't really remember much about, because I listened to that CD on my phone. I had it synced it to my phone. Don't know how many years ago now. At least 10 years ago. And I've brought it with me all the time. And I've listened to it so many times that I probably would have known it at one point off by heart. So probably using that would have been very easy for me, just to follow his steps. And yeah, just to get myself just into a very relaxed state. And then just decide. I usually decide in advance what it is that I'm looking for. Set my intention at the start, and just one or two simple things that aren't conflicting. That aren't maybe different aspects of my life, maybe physical and personal. Sort of thing, or emotional, or that sort of thing. How I want to feel about certain things that might be coming up, or whatever.
And yourself, Rich, did you what way have you used it? Have you used something similar as well?
Yeah, mostly listen to various tracks like Mike Mandel's Hypnosis to the Castle. Use that, or make them up myself, record my own voice doing that, and make my own stuff up and listen to that. My understanding also with the smoking sensation is because by and large smoking isn't related to a traumatic event, so like being alcoholic or a heavy drug user or anything like that, then smoking can be used. It only really takes one session to stop smoking, compared to maybe alcohol or gambling or whatever it is. Because like kids experimenting behind the bike sheds.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, that's reasonable. That makes sense. All right.
Because some people kind of ask the question, is hypnosis real? Like that. I've seen that like come across like that question a lot. And I think there's a good really answer to that. Like when you're reading a book, let's say that's a trance, and then you're watching a movie, it's also a trance as well. So we're always in these trances. And I think as well, getting back to what we were saying earlier on about NLP and hypnosis being linked in a lot of ways. Like I think when you're doing NLP techniques and you're doing them in hypnosis, it can actually make it stronger. What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, very much so. It'll just add to the enhanced experience of the end user, to increase the modalities and just to make that situation a lot better, sound a lot brighter. And they can feel better coming out of that situation. It deeply enhances subconsciously in their mind that experience.
Absolutely. Yeah. So if you're trying to maybe talk to yourself about a particular thing, or if you're more relaxed and your mind isn't jumping here and there, well, then obviously you're going to be more focused on what it is that you want to achieve. And so just relaxing yourself now helps you to do that. You just become more relaxed, and you just decide, well, already in advance what you've decided you want to do and what you want to achieve. So it just brings it more into your focus, and it leaves you less worried about anything else that's going on around you.
Mm-hmm. Mark, when you go off running, do you find
Yeah.
yourself getting into the zone? Do you?
Yeah, you do. It's like it's funny you should say that, because I was only thinking of, like, as you're out running, like you could be gone like for a good run, like say 20 minutes to half an hour, and you'd be thinking to yourself, God, how did I get here? You know, because you're not running consciously. I think you're running unconsciously, if that makes sense. You know, like because even for, like, let's say driving, they talk a lot about driving. You know, you're so used to doing something, like you're it's so automatic to you, like, you know, you've driven so much, you're doing it unconsciously without even, you're listening to the radio, you're having a chat, you're doing you're doing all these things, and before you know it, you're at the destination. So getting back to your question, yeah, I would like, I would think I am running unconsciously, if that answers your question.
Yeah. So there's no real external factors,
Mm,
is there? You're not really thinking about anything outside your mind,
no, no.
apart from breathing and put that one step in front of another.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
go then turn around coming home.
I suppose
But
the same
but
question could be asked of you, Rich, when you go cycling.
mm,
Yeah. Well, concentrate a bit more on the road, really.
yeah. But what I
Yeah.
do find as well is that, you know, when you're out running, you know, especially if you're running in the park or somewhere nice, like, it is good to kind of, because you would find yourself just in a zone and not watching where you're going. But it's good to kind of look at nature as well when you're running. I find that as well. So sometimes you have to do it in a conscious way as well.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah, you're going to drop in and out of consciousness anyway, simply because you need to be aware of what's going on around you, which is a bit
Yeah,
contradictory.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. But you know, I think we're not telling anybody how to do anything. We're just saying what we do. But basically, when just say I'm doing self hypnosis, what I do is, I'd, like Fintan said earlier on, I'd kind of think of what exactly I want to get out of that session. Be it, like, you know, be more confident, or um just whatever the case may be. If you want to get be faster running, or whatever the case may, just write that thing down, or even have it in your mind of what you want. And then what I do then is think how long I want to go on self hypnosis for, be it 20 minutes, a half an hour. And then I just close my eyes and relax and breathe deeply. And then you'll find yourself, and if you think you can't go in it, just imagine you can do it. Like,
Mm.
just imagine as if you are in hypnosis. And then if you imagine you're not imagining anymore, you know, and then that way you're gonna steep down. And while you're there, while you're in self hypnosis, you can kind of give yourself suggestions of how this is going to work. Like, you're going to feel more confident when you're awake. Yeah, you're going to be, whatever the case may be. And then by putting this in your mind, when you do come back out after 20 minutes, it's surprising you will actually come back out after 20 minutes and a half an hour, because you've actually programmed yourself to do that, if that makes sense. So it's a really, really good way of doing it.
Absolutely, yeah. And if you find any difficulty with relaxing, you can get a guided meditation and just follow that. So set your intention beforehand. You know how long it's going to last, and then you know that you say to yourself, "Well, when I finish this, I'm going to be awake and alert and ready to go, all fired up, and have achieved or be ready to achieve that thing which I've intended on achieving."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I find it's better to be sat in a chair as well. So I find lying down, going to hypnosis, tend to fall asleep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, it's so easy to fall asleep then. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely is.
Yeah, I have to say, I always lie down and I never have any issue. I always, whatever, wake up, if you like, at the right moment, or at the same moment. You know, at the just. I suppose I'm so used to it at this stage that that's what I do. You know. But yeah, and it's very useful in all sorts of circumstances. And as well as that, I suppose before I ever came across NLP, I've always done meditation, you know, and before I came across hypnosis, I did meditation. And so for me, I find that you can use, we were taught, we did an episode on anchoring. We mentioned anchoring, and I mentioned at the time that I have a lot of things I anchored to down through the years. I'd anchor different things. What I do is I run through those particular anchors, fire each of the anchors one in turn while doing a meditation. And what it does is it kind of changes my state, or it gives me a number of states, and it builds on each state so that by the end of the meditation, it might only take 5 minutes. But it's something that I can do. Like, for example, I did it while I was in an exam, you know, so there was like 3 exams on that day. So I'm very little time in between the exams. So what I did was I took, actually, I did a super fast one. I did about 30 seconds worth of it. I just fired each anchor, just felt it, didn't say any of the words, just felt it, felt it, felt it. And then I was completely relaxed then and ready to go, as if I hadn't just sat an exam, you know. So it is something that you can use in any sort of situation, you know. There's a huge overlap between everything, you know.
Oh, absolutely. And you made a really good point, Fintan, as well. You know, when you're saying when you're in self-hypnosis, you know, where like, just say you want to, when you come out of it, you want to be bright and full of energy and ready for the day. And the other side of the coin, if just say you're doing it before you go to bed, which is a really good point as well, like you can do it and then say, when I wake up, I want to be really relaxed and calm and ready for a great night's sleep, which can be a very strong anchor as well. And you know, well, I suppose an anchor to sleeping.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, sorry, Rich, go on ahead.
That's right, yeah. And you can use that as well, is get rid of yourself for the morning.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's a few people who might be concerned about hypnosis and the effects it can have on people. So maybe it's worth discussing a few of the myths around hypnosis and what it does and how it affect people.
Absolutely, Rich. Yeah.
So one example is people are concerned that without permission they can be hypnotized, and that nobody can. They have to be a willing participant in the whole process of doing so. So there's a story going around that this son of he's now considered like a semi-famous singer. When this guy was about 12 years old, living in Paris, he would hypnotize the housemaid and get to take a blouse off. That's not going to happen simply because 12 years old, how the hell is he going to be a very good hypnotist at that age? And would a housemaid be a willing participant in that? Chances are no. So things like that, myths around the vulnerabilities of hypnosis, unless somebody is a willing participant, then it can happen. Is people want somebody else to give up smoking or lose some weight or whatever else, and they take them across to a hypnotherapist. But if that person isn't, as what Fintan said earlier, at threshold, then they will not. They won't want the hypnotherapist with hypnosis treatment, and also is they're not there willingly. People have to be there willingly to accept that they want to change, and it can't be forced on by somebody else.
No, the same token, you can't give anybody advice, unsolicited advice, you know.
Oh, you can, but they wouldn't listen to it.
Don't listen to it, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's an excellent point.
And you're, it's a great point. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, no, I know it's fine. I was going to say, Rich, that's an excellent point. And do you the three? I suppose there's 3 aspects to threshold. The 3 points.
Sure.
Do you want to cover them, or will I cover them?
You can cover them.
All right. Well, there's 3 things required to be considered that you're at threshold. The first is that something has to change. The second is that it has to be now. And the third is it has to be me. So you have lots of people who, for example, will go to say give up smoking, let's just say, for example. And so this is going to anybody. It doesn't have to be to a hypnotist. It doesn't have to be for NLP. It could be for absolutely anything. It could be going to the gym. But the point is that you have to decide something has to change. It has to be now, and it has to be me. Often people will say, well, I want to give up smoking. I know it's me that has to want that, but do I want to give up now, or will I give up next month or next year or whatever? And that's where a lot of people fall down. And in other cases, then they think, well, yes, something has to change, but it's not me, it's somebody else has to change. And that sort of thing, you know. So yeah, that's what they mean when they say somebody has to be at threshold.
Mm-hmm.
Mm. Yeah, as well as that, like you might get people saying that, like I heard someone talking before saying that, you know, say like, oh, talk to such and such, you'll really help them. But they have to be talking to you, not the other person. You're wasting your time if they don't want to come and talk to you about the problem.
That's correct.
Absolutely, yeah. That's a very good point, actually, I have to say. And look, we all know, like you said, even any unsolicited advice, whatever it is, if it's unsolicited, people just don't want to listen to it. And even if they listen to it, they won't act on it. They must be at that point themselves. So it is a complete waste of time. I suppose as a practitioner to talk to somebody, unless they themselves want to come to you and say, yes, I'm ready to do this now.
And what you'll often find, going back to the unsolicited advice, is you've told someone that they could have done this, and then maybe like 5 years later, they've gone ahead and done it. You go, yeah, well, I told you should be doing that. It's not till that person's ready.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Yeah. It has to be now. So they have to be at that point where they believe now is the right time for them. But to be honest with you, you're all guilty of that. I know myself that I am.
Oh, yeah.
There's lots I should have done a long time ago. That's why.
Yeah.
And
no
I
time
suppose
like the present, eh?
that's it. Well, I suppose our subtitle is things we wished we knew when we were young.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes as well, things we wished we'd done when we were young. We might have known some of it and just not done it, you know. So
just a questions that to come to me thinking there just about
sure.
your own scenario, if you don't mind me asking, when you were going to the hypnotist about smoking to give up smoking. Were you at threshold back then? Like and how did you know you were at threshold?
Well, actually, that's a good question. And I was at threshold. Well, I can say that now because it worked. But I knew I was because what happened was at the time before that, I used to smoke all day. And even when I didn't feel like smoking, I smoked. And there was a woman who worked with me and she was the same. She just couldn't not smoke, you know. So anyway, I was there. One day she arrived in and she said, oh, I don't smoke anymore. And I went, what? You don't smoke? What's this about? She goes, yeah, I went to a hypnotist. And of course, I was familiar with hypnosis. I had heard of Paul McKenna, you know, and I'd seen his stage show or whatever. So when she said that, I thought, well, hang on a second, it can work for her. Maybe it can work for me, you know. And I played football at the time. Actually, I was doing taekwondo at the time. And I remember I was in taekwondo. Taekwondo was on the Thursday night, and the following Monday, I was going to the hypnotist. And I took out my pouch of tobacco at the end of taekwondo, as I always did. And the taekwondo master comes over and he says, oh, you get rid of that tobacco. I says, oh, don't worry. I says, next Monday at 7:45, I'll be a non-smoker. And he says, no, you should stop now. And I went, no, I'm happy enough. I know that at 7:45 next Monday, I'll be a non-smoker. And I was delighted because I knew that it would improve with fitness, you know. And I also had my son had asthma, and he was only young. He was only about 2, I think, at the time. So it was like a matter of for his sake, you know, not to be smoking around him, not to be all that sort of thing. So between that and everything, I thought, you know what, the smoking is doing me no good anymore. Let's get rid of it. And So I had set the time and the date. So, and the time and the date was 8:15 on that Monday, because I was going to see him at say 7 or half 7. I presume it was say 7 o'clock, and I knew that I'd walk out there a non-smoker. So the work was already done. He didn't have much to do really, you know.
Yeah.
All he had to do was not completely mess it up, you know. And I didn't realize that at the time, but I had faith. I thought, well, if this woman who works with me can do it, then absolutely anyone could do it. Then I can do it, you know. And it was strange. And even afterwards, you know, withdrawals and stuff like that, they just never seemed. They were completely different. I won't say I didn't have withdrawals because I did, but they were very different from whenever I'd given up smoking before. You know, anytime I gave up smoking before, it was like, oh, I want a cigarette. You know, I can't wait till I get a cigarette. I might give them up for the day for Ash Wednesday or something, and then I'd be dying at midnight. I'd be there and I'd be out the window, hanging out the window, having a smoke or something like that. You know, but yeah, but that time it was just like, no, yeah, I know this will go and that'll be it. You know, and it did, and yeah, I never look back. I have to say, never.
That's great because.
Go on, Mark, carry on.
Oh no, sorry, Rich. Sorry. No, that's a great story because that's going to resonate with a lot of people. You know, that are listening and watching the show. You know that have been wanting to give up something, but to kind of get themselves to get them think of the reasons why they should give it up if they want to give it up. That can really bring them to threshold.
Definitely, and it's also the belief is that one can change, and two, the whatever modality it is will help me change. If that's not there, then you can go to whomever it is in the world, the best psychiatrist, the best EDMR practitioner, the best whatever it is. And if the belief isn't there, then it will not help, I don't think.
Right. You mentioned modality there, Rich. Do you want to explain a bit more about that?
Yeah, modalities such as EDMR, CBT, whatever therapy it is to help with a situation somebody might be facing. If the belief isn't there, then it's not going to work. It most likely won't, or there'll be a lot of resistance to it working.
Yeah, I would agree with you there, because I do know someone else who went to the same guy. Actually, one thing that was significant, you mentioned, how did I know it worked or whatever? When I walked out of there, I had a pouch of tobacco and rolling papers and a lighter. And I threw the tobacco and the papers in the bin, and I kept the lighter because I figured the lighter would be some use. But I said the tobacco and papers are no use to anybody, right? So even a person who smokes wouldn't be any use to them because they shouldn't be smoking anyway, right? And but someone else who went came out and gave the cigarettes away because to him the cigarettes still had value. And I saw that and I thought to myself, I wonder. And then he was back smoking then a short while later. But I remember noticing that at the time because my feeling was, oh, the tobacco had no value to me at that point, whereas to him it still had value, you know. And I don't think he was at the threshold. I think he went because he was asked to go. Let's just say.
Yeah. Or told to go.
I don't think he was there. Well, I don't think he was there as voluntarily as I was. Yeah, I don't think he was at threshold, put it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's funny, before I ever heard of any NLP or hypnosis went with that, like years ago, when I was about 16, 15, maybe 16, 17, I something similar to yourself, Fintan. I used to go swimming a lot, and when you were swimming, like and I have asthma as well, and smoking, not a great combination to say the least, but you could just notice, like, when you're trying to breathe, like when you're swimming, I was like and that was enough for me to give up. You know, I didn't need hypnosis or anything like that. It was just I was at threshold and into the bin the cigarettes went and everything, you know.
Great. It's excellent. Yeah, it's good. It's good when that happens, you know.
Yeah, but we were going to talk as well around hypnotic language as well. Like there's a good few people that like Mike Mandel, to give him a plug. Brain Software podcast, which is a really good podcast as well. I'm sure you agree, lads. Like he I think it's okay to kind of talk about his cards. There's great cards that
Yeah.
that I got from him. They're called Mike Mandel. I'm sure I don't know if you can see
That's
them
it,
there.
yeah. There you go.
Yeah, they're really good cards. They're language cards. So basically they're hypnotic language cards. They're basically around Milton Erickson's language patterns, you know. And I just really went out to you just for yourselves, like pick one out random. They're so handy just to have with you. So like there's an and yeah pattern where this pattern is very effective way of acknowledging a problem, but it doesn't stop there. It then causes the mind to look outside the magnetive and see a positive reframe that wasn't noticed. I realize it's true that you've been set back by your illness, and yet you've had a lot of time to read and learn new skills. So just listen to that. It's great. Like that's just one at random, you know. Like the cards are really good. So like that's just one of the examples. And yet, and there's other ones. There's let go. There's now. There's pacing and leading. Can you feel? There's all these different, you know, sentences that mean so much in this language. Like because is one of them. You know, for instance, if just say you're trying to get your son or your child to clean the room, and that you're giving out to them saying, "Clean this room up, it's a mess." You're losing the head with them, wherever it is, and say, "Do this, do that." Then, but what you can try is not try. Try is the wrong word, but give a go. Is say, "Clean this room because we're going out tomorrow," because that's past the critical factor, you know, like the guards of the gate, so to speak. Like you're saying, because it's hurt, and then it kind of backs up what you said before.
Yeah, they did an experiment in an office setting where somebody had some photocopying to do, and there was about half a dozen people in front. And they said, "Oh, do you mind if I get ahead of photocopy this? It's because I've only got like half a dozen sheets and you've got all these." And go, "Oh, no, we don't mind."
Brilliant. Yeah, it's great, isn't it?
I find that useful in the supermarket, but normally they just say to me, "I'll go on ahead, you only a couple of bits."
yeah.
Which is very handy.
So where Milton Erickson became so good at hypnotic language is because he was bedridden, polio, so pretty much paralyzed, I believe. And so he would just listen out to what people were saying. And when he became a MD and a psychiatrist, could come practice psychiatry without, or hypnotism without being a psychiatrist back in his day, he would just listen into what people were saying, what really worked for them, and he would just utilize every word and examine what every word would mean to that person. And he'd start off with, I don't know, say like 100 pages. And he eventually whittled all those 100 pages and condensed everything into 1 or 2 pages for people for trance work, for hypnosis work on that particular individual.
Very good.
Yeah.
I've listened to a good bit to say Mike Mandel, but even of course you did Orlando. We mentioned well, you can't mention hypnotism without mentioning Erickson, really, and he obviously was a genius in everything he did. You know, I think he probably brought it to a new level. Did he?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
There's also, so you got that side of things is a lot of words being utilized. Then there's the other side is mesmer, and it's the prestige of someone. And so he could get people in a hypnotic state, and I don't know if cure is the right word, but help people out with whatever ailment they were, because he had so much prestige, and he wouldn't really need to use the words. He just let them work on themselves.
Wow. Yeah.
And you just watch out for little muscle movement and whatever else it is, just to give clues of, oh, that's working, and then add the little suggestion here and there as well.
I suppose it's a bit like when I went to the hypnotist for the cigarettes. Even before I walked in the door, like a week before I went to him, I was convinced it was going to work. So I suppose kind of that's what you mean by prestige, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
here's this me going to this guy who's a hypnotist, and I'd seen Paul McKenna before, so he was doing his stage hypnosis. So that was what hypnotism was to me. Now I knew there was kind of a therapeutic end to it, but I went in and this was this like big hypnotist, and he was just going to go do his magic and go woo woo, and I was going to go under, and I'd come out and I'd be a non-smoker,
Yeah. And also with Mesmer is the fact that he had like the elite of the Parisian society. So all those people going there, that added to his prestige. People were getting the effects of whatever he was doing. So that increased the belief of all the other people around as well. And it was just
of course,
my understanding is he's
yeah.
very, very good at stage show and all that kind of stuff as well, which increased his level of prestige with those people that he's working with.
Wow, that's great, isn't it? Yeah,
Very
because
good, yeah.
even that sounds great, because as well as that, Milton Erickson, like as well, the way he was very so vague in his language as well, and he was saying I heard about this scenario where somebody couldn't sleep, they had really problems sleeping, and what he did was he said to them, right, he said, okay, I'm gonna give you polish and this varnish, and if you're still awake at 11 p.m. tonight, I want you to varnish the whole of your floor, the whole of your floor, all night. Okay. So the next night he was still awake at 11 o'clock, so he had to get up and varnish the whole floor, and then the third night what was 11 o'clock. I say, here, I'm not doing that anymore, and he fell fast asleep. Something like that. It's just, it was like the way he's done that. Just that little things like that, like great stuff.
Mm-hmm. And another quite famous hypnotist is, I think, is Scottish. Can't get my words out right. A Scottish, yeah, something like that. And he was in the British Army up in India, and he was a captain. And what he would help with surgery with all the locals is some of them had massive infections or gallbladders and whatever else, and just massive, like these things would weigh 100 pounds or so. And what he would do is he would use hypnosis to stop the blood flowing as he's performing surgery.
Right.
But, yeah, wow. Obviously that would take weeks and weeks of preparation to be able to do that, to convince the blood, to convince the system that as he's performing, it doesn't need to, it can just stop itself, which is quite crazy. Really.
And of course, there was no anesthetics back then either. Sure, there wasn't.
Well, there would have been like chloroform and things like that.
Oh, there. All right. Yeah. But it was mostly blood flow, was it?
Yeah, that's what you stop it.
A lot of people used to die from them, from those operations, isn't that right?
Pardon?
A lot of people died from those operations, isn't that right? It was because they bled out. Was that it?
I don't know what the success rate was.
Before he was doing this
technique.
Quite
possibly.
Yeah. As far as I know, there was a high mortality rate.
Yeah.
From it. And yeah, that's true. But of course, that goes back to prestige as well, because as far as I remember, when I heard that story, because it was in India, the local people had, a lot of belief in sort of mystical things.
Yeah.
To them, this was just one more mystical thing that could work. But when he went back to London and he tried it, the people there just didn't have the same belief system. Yeah. So, and he didn't have the same prestige. They were more skeptical about it, so they weren't as likely to go to, I suppose, to be able to use this technique on them, to be able to use hypnosis on them for this purpose.
Yeah. And like, carry on, Mark, sorry.
Oh no, it's okay. No, I was just trying to think there. The way when somebody is in hypnosis, where you get your arm float like that. I can't remember the correct term, but and you feel like it's just really, really there and really light. And then what they do is, like, correct me if I'm wrong, you have the arm, and then you can move that to parts of your body, and it can kind of be like anesthesia for when they're doing operations or something like that. Just say they're doing on your leg or your arm. Your arm can, when you're in deep hypnosis, your arm can be numb, so you won't feel any pain.
Yeah, absolutely. So there is Dave Elman, is it, with his teachings on how to do hypnosis for people with dental phobias and things like that, and to stop bleeding, toothache during dental operations as well.
Good.
Yeah.
Actually, I went to a dentist there a number of years ago now, and the first time I went to the first dentist I went to, what happened was there was a problem with the tooth, so she was trying to take the tooth out, but she couldn't get it out, and she pulled this way and that way and the other way, right? And what happened was, so anyway, she left it in, and she made a referral to me to a special dentist in another town, and that was going to go to him. So what happened anyway was, I knew when I left there, I ran as far as the chemist. I got all the tablets I could get, all the painkillers. I knew as soon as this wore off, my mouth was going to be in bits, and it was.
Yeah.
And so I was just stuffing myself with painkillers. So what happened then anyway was, I went to, so when I was going to this other guy, unfortunately I happened to run into a friend of mine who was also a scout leader at the time, and she mentioned to me about arnica. So anyway, I took some arnica before I went down, and I even took some painkillers before I went down. But I also did meditation, right? Because I didn't have any other skills at the time. I just did meditation. So I just went into deep relaxation. And it was quite interesting, because what happened was, now I was anesthetized, right? But they offered me a sedative, but a sedative was like another €100 or something. So I thought, do you know what? I'll just do a bit of meditation. And I knew the first time had been pretty traumatic. So I thought the second time, I'll just see what I can do. So I prepared in advance. Anyway, I was there and I was nice and relaxed. And at one stage, I had like 3 hands in my mouth. The dentist 2 hands, and the assistant had a hand in my mouth. There was everything going on, and there was blood spurting all over the place. What happened was, right, the tooth was like this size, right, and the root was like that size. So your man had to drill into my jaw and then drill on the other side, and it still wasn't big enough. And he did this for an hour and a half, right? And at the end of it, and there was blood spurting everywhere, and I was just totally relaxed through the whole thing, and just completely the whole time focused on just doing me relaxation and meditation the whole time. And anyway, afterwards, at the very end of it, your man finished, and your one went home, and I was paying him and stuff like that. There was blood all over him, and there was blood all over me as well. But he was there anyway, and I was just chatting to him about the operation, and he looks at me, and it was only at that point I realized, obviously they were under a lot of stress doing this operation, and he's looking at me going, how are you not like traumatized after that? It was only then I realized that I should have actually been traumatized. But anyway, I went, oh, thank God that worked, obviously,
Oh,
So I went out and I got more tablets and more painkillers. But believe it or not, the first time it happened, when they didn't take it out, I was days and days and days in pain and everything afterwards. But that time they took it out, and by 9 o'clock that evening, when the anesthetic had worn off, I was able to eat Chinese. Do you know what I mean? And that was like seriously good. The other day I wasn't able to eat for days after, So it just shows you the effect that it can have on I suppose it's your central nervous system, isn't it?
Yeah.
Really does.
Well, there's a post-hypnotic suggestion as well. Is why are you not traumatized?
No, he didn't say that. He didn't say anything like that. He was like but he was looking at me as if he was more traumatized than I was, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
About the whole thing, which made sense, because but I hadn't realized, do you know what I mean? I thought they're just working, working away, this is just normal for them. I suppose if you think about it, if you're focused on something for an hour and a half, not to mention exactly what it was they were doing, that it would have an effect. If you're working very hard and very focused on a particular task for an hour and a half, you're going to be wrecked after it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I suppose, but it was just that he had that kind of look in his eye, like, why aren't you traumatized here, you know? But it was kind of afterwards that I realized all of this, you know? At the time, I was just happy to go home, you know?
Yeah. I'm happy it worked out well for you anyway at the end. But
Yeah,
we're
so was
going,
I.
yeah, we're gone on nearly 40 minutes now, so we might actually make a part two of this because we still have a few things to discuss around hypnosis. If you're happy enough with that, guys.
Yeah, we can do that. Yeah.
Sure, yeah. There's still a
Yeah,
few
because
bits now that we can cover,
yeah, yeah,
And I believe we got a guest on next time, Mark. Do we not?
we do. Yeah, we have Leslie Ford. She she's around EFT. She works in EFT. We mentioned the podcast before, and she also does homeopathy. I hope I pronounced that right. Correct?
Homeopathy.
Yeah, yeah, that's the one. Yeah. So it's holistic medicine and all that kind of stuff, which I'm very interested in as well. I'm sure you guys are as well, and the listener would be interested in that as well. So very looking forward to talking to Leslie on the podcast.
That'd be awesome. Yeah, very interesting.
Right. Excellent.
Yeah, yeah, because she does she actually just started a course as a teacher of homeopathy and EFT as well. I'll have to look at the dictionary to get that pronounce that word properly for the next one.
No worries.
Yeah, like I have to say, Scottish surgeon.
Brilliant. Yeah, but yeah, will we do we have a scale on lay for today?
Well, should I give you one?
Okay.
Many Fado and Aaron, a long time ago in Ireland, there was a king, and his name was Lowry Lynchuk. And the thing about Lowry was he had the ears of a donkey, the ears of an ass. And he tried to hide it for a long time, and he did successfully. The only person who would ever see his ears were his barber. The problem was, though, for the barber, was as soon as he cut his hair, he would be killed. He'd be put to death. So he couldn't tell anybody about Lowry Lynchuk's donkey's ears. Eventually, there was a young lad called Donal who wanted to be the next up and coming barber. So his fame spread throughout the land, and the king said, "I'll have him cut my hair." But his mother was a bit worried about him because, of course, she didn't want him to be killed, you know. So she went and she begged and pleaded with the king, and the king said, "Well, look, okay, he's only young, he's your only son, etc., etc. I won't have him put down, I won't have him killed, so long um, as he promises never, ever, ever to tell anyone the secret." So he promised, and that was grand. So he cut his hair and he was let go home. And that was all fine until he started getting sick. The secret was weighing on him every night. He was thinking about this secret and how nobody knew about it, you know. And so eventually, anyway, he went to a druid, and the druid said to him, "What you need to do is go into the woods and go to the first oak tree and tell your secret to the first oak tree you see." So he went in anyway, and he came to this oak tree, and he told the secret to the oak tree, and he immediately started feeling better. He'd gotten rid of this out of his system, and he went home, and everything was grand for a while until the king's chief bard needed a new harp. So what did he do? He went into the woods and he selected the finest oak tree. And of course, it just happened to be the same oak tree that Donal had told the secret to. So he chopped it down, made the harp, and he played it for the first time on the night of a big feast. All the chieftains in the country were there, and he took out this brand new harp. And as soon as he pulled on the strings, it said, instead of music coming out, it said, "Lowry Lynchuk has the ears of an ass." And everyone stopped, and the king was furious. He was going, what's going on here? But eventually, anyway, everybody just ignored it. Everyone kind of realized he took off his crown. They saw his ears, and everyone just went, okay. And they went on, they had their feast, and they continued their night's festivities. So eventually the king realized that actually nobody really cared. So Donald went and became the royal barber from then on, and no more barbers were killed.
Very cool. Thank you, Fintan.
Mhm.
Let that one sink in. Brilliant. Cheers, Fintan.
Yeah, no
So
bother
we
at all.
so we have the scale.
Cash Dunley.
Cash on there.
Cash Stanley. Cash Stanley. Do you want to go, Rich, or will I?
Yeah. So, as we've been talking about hypnosis, as you go into your own self-hypnosis today, where can you make changes in your life?
Very cool. Very cool.
Cool.
I love that one.
Thanks very much.
Great stuff.
For a
Thank
new
you.
progress.
Eh?
Brilliant. Thanks
You're
very much,
welcome.
lads.
Yeah, thanks very much, Mark.
Thanks a lot, and
Thanks,
we
Rich.
look forward to next time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And once again, if you have any questions for ourselves, you can that you'd like us to discuss in the podcast, you can email us at NLP Upskill Your Life at hotmail.com, or also put it on the Facebook group, and we'd be able to talk about what you want us to talk about on the podcast.
Mhm. Absolutely.
Absolutely, yeah.
Cool.
Okay, till next time, take good
Listening.
care of yourselves, and thanks for listening and watching on YouTube.
Cheerio.
There now.
Cheers.